Just tell me the truth.
You, you never really saw me.
The sound of my wife's laughter drifting through the kitchen window should have made me smile. Instead, it made my stomach twist into knots. I was under the hood of my old Ford pickup, wrench in hand, when I heard Alyssa's voice cut through the evening air like a knife. You made Dad quit his good job, and now you're sleeping with Vinny? You're disgusting, Mom. I froze. The wrench slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the driveway. 17 years of marriage, and this is how I find out? Through my teenage daughter's brutal honesty? Keep your voice down, Claire hissed back. The whole neighborhood doesn't need to know our business. Too late for that, sweetheart. Mrs. Keene next door was probably already taking notes for her morning gossip rounds. I straightened up slowly, wiping grease from my hands with an old rag. The autumn air bit at my face, but I barely felt it. My mind was racing, connecting dots I'd been too naive or too trusting to see before. The late nights at work, the new clothes, the way she'd started going to the gym where Vinny worked out. Vinny, that sleazy car salesman with his fake tan and his gold chain, the guy who'd been trying to get under my skin at the boxing gym for months, making jokes about old married guys and their wandering wives. Alyssa, you don't understand the situation, Claire continued, her voice taking on that patronizing tone she used when she thought she was the smartest person in the room. I understand plenty. You're a cheater, and Dad's too nice to call you out on it. Nice. That's what everyone always said about me. Nice guy, good husband, hard worker, the kind of man who builds furniture in his garage and fixes neighbors' plumbing for free, the kind of man whose wife apparently finds so boring she has to seek excitement elsewhere. I closed the hood of the truck with more force than necessary. The slam echoed through our quiet suburban street, and the voices inside went silent. Through the window, I could see Claire's silhouette moving quickly away from the kitchen. Walking into my own house felt like entering enemy territory. Claire was at the sink, washing dishes with unnecessary vigor. Alyssa sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with the practiced indifference of a teenager who just dropped a bombshell. Hey, I said, keeping my voice casual. Truck's running better now? Claire didn't look up. That's nice, David. Alyssa glanced at me with something that might have been pity. Dad, you've got grease on your shirt. I looked down at the dark stains spreading across my white t-shirt. Seemed appropriate somehow. Everything in my life was getting stained these days. I'll throw it in the wash, I said. I'll do it, Claire offered quickly. Too quickly. I'm doing a load anyway. Of course she was. Probably washing evidence. I wondered what else she'd been cleaning up lately. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Claire slept beside me, or pretended to sleep. Her breathing was too controlled, too even. I'd been married to her long enough to know the difference. The house creaked around us, settling into its nighttime routine. 17 years we'd lived here. I'd renovated every room, replaced every fixture, painted every wall, built the deck where we used to have coffee on Sunday mornings, fixed the leaky roof that kept us awake during storms. Now it felt like a museum of a marriage that had ended without me getting the memo. I slipped out of bed and padded downstairs to my workshop in the basement. This was my sanctuary, the place where I could think clearly. Tools hung in perfect order on pegboard walls. Half-finished projects sat on workbenches, waiting for my attention. I picked up a piece of oak I'd been shaping into a jewelry box for Claire's birthday next month. Ran my fingers along the smooth grain. Funny how wood could be so honest. It showed you exactly what it was, flaws and all. No pretense, no lies. Unlike some people I knew. My phone buzzed on the workbench. A text message. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. Unknown number. Check your wife's car. Glove compartment. I stared at the screen. Who would send something like this, and why? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. But I found myself putting on my jacket and walking out to the driveway. Claire's sedan sat under the streetlight, looking innocent enough. I tried the door, unlocked, as always. She'd never been worried about theft in our quiet neighborhood. The glove compartment opened with a soft click. Inside, beneath the registration and insurance papers, I found a hotel receipt. The Riverside Inn, just outside town, last Tuesday night. The same Tuesday she'd told me she was working late on a big case. Under the receipt was a parking stub from Vinny's car lot. Same date. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, holding the evidence of my wife's betrayal. The leather smelled like her perfume, mixed with something else. Men's cologne? Cheap stuff. A tap on the window made me jump. Mrs. Keene stood outside in her bathrobe and slippers, looking concerned. I rolled down the window. "Everything okay, Mrs. Keene?" "I was going to ask you the same thing, dear. It's past midnight." "Couldn't sleep. Thought I heard something out here." She nodded knowingly. "A lot of strange noises lately. Cars coming and going at odd hours. You might want to keep an eye on that." Message received, loud and clear. Even the neighbors knew. "I'll do that," I said. "Thanks for looking out." That's what neighbors are for. Back in the house, I sat at the kitchen table with the hotel receipt spread out in front of me. The numbers told a story I didn't want to read, but couldn't ignore. Room 237. 2 nights. Premium rate. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. "There's more where that came from. Your wife isn't as careful as she thinks." I typed back, "Who is this?" The response came quickly. "A friend. Someone who thinks you deserve better." I stared at those words for a long time. Someone who thinks you deserve better. When was the last time anyone had said that to me? When was the last time I'd thought it myself? The house settled around me with familiar creaks and sighs. Upstairs, Claire slept peacefully in our bed, probably dreaming of her exciting new life with Vinny the car salesman. Tomorrow she'd wake up and make coffee and ask about my day, and I'd play along like the nice guy everyone expected me to be. But nice guys, I was beginning to realize, finish last for a reason. They let people walk all over them. They make excuses for behavior that should be inexcusable. They smile and nod while their lives fall apart around them. I folded the hotel receipt and put it in my wallet. Evidence for later. Because suddenly, I was very interested in collecting evidence. The basement workshop called to me again. I went down and picked up the jewelry box I'd been making for Claire. Beautiful piece of oak. Hours of careful work. Sanded smooth and ready for staining. Instead, I fed it into the table saw. The wood screamed as the blade tore through it, reducing hours of loving craftsmanship to splinters and sawdust. The noise was tremendous in the enclosed space, but satisfying in a way I hadn't expected. When it was done, I swept up the pieces and dumped them in the trash. No more jewelry box for Claire's birthday. She'd have to settle for whatever Vinny could afford on a car salesman's commission. I was halfway up the stairs when my phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. "Good. You're finally getting angry. Now we can really begin." The next morning arrived with the artificial cheerfulness that had become our family's signature. Claire hummed while making coffee, Alyssa scrolled through social media over her cereal, and I sat at the table pretending to read the newspaper while watching my wife's performance. She was good, I had to admit. The loving touches when she handed me my coffee, the kiss on the cheek before she left for work, the casual mention of having to work late again tonight. If I hadn't found that hotel receipt, I might have believed her act. "Don't wait up," she said, adjusting her makeup in the hallway mirror. "This Henderson case is going to take forever." "Sure thing," I replied. "I'll probably be in the workshop anyway." Alyssa looked up from her phone. "Dad, you know she's lying, right?" Claire's hand froze on her lipstick. "Alyssa, that's enough." "Whatever. I'm riding to school with Madison." She grabbed her backpack and headed for the door. At least some parents still like each other. The door slammed behind her, leaving Claire and me in uncomfortable silence. "She's just acting out," Claire said finally. "Teenagers, you know?" "Right. Teenagers." After she left, I sat in the empty kitchen drinking coffee that tasted like ashes. The house felt different now, contaminated somehow. Every surface held memories of a marriage that had apparently been over longer than I'd realized. My phone rang. Frankie from the gym. "You coming in today, Dave? Haven't seen you all week." "Yeah, I'll be there. Need to work off some frustration." "Everything okay? You sound weird." Frankie had been my best friend since high school. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it would be him. But I wasn't ready to say the words out loud yet. Wasn't ready to make it real. "Just tired. See you this afternoon." The gym was my second home, a converted warehouse that smelled like sweat and determination. Frankie had opened it 10 years ago after retiring from semi-professional boxing. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest. No mirrors, no chrome, just heavy bags and hard work. I was wrapping my hands when Vinny walked in. He looked exactly like what he was, a middle-aged man trying too hard to look young. Tight t-shirt showing off muscles that were more for show than function, hair styled with too much gel, that gold chain catching the fluorescent lights. "Hey, Dave," he called out with fake friendliness. "How's the wife?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. He knew. Of course he knew. He was probably enjoying this, getting to see me up close while he was sleeping with my wife. She's fine, I managed. Good, good. Claire's a real catch. You're a lucky man. The way he said her name, casual and familiar, made my hands clench into fists. But I forced myself to stay calm. Nice guy, Dave wouldn't make a scene. Thanks, I said. He moved to the heavy bag next to mine and started his routine. Flashy combinations that looked impressive but had no real power behind them. All style, no substance, just like everything else about him. So I heard you're doing some renovation work, he said between punches. If you ever need a break from the house, Claire mentioned she's been working a lot of late nights. Probably gets lonely. That did it. I turned to face him fully, but before I could say anything, Frankie appeared between us. Vinny, your form's all wrong. You're telegraphing every punch. Dave, you look like you want to hit something. Why don't you two spar a few rounds? I don't think that's a good idea, I started to say. Come on, Vinny grinned. Just friendly sparring, unless you're worried about getting hurt. The challenge hung in the air. Around the gym, other guys stopped their workouts to watch. This was the kind of moment that defined you in a place like this. Back down, and everyone would see you as weak. Stand up, and maybe earn some respect. Okay, I heard myself saying. Let's do it. Frankie helped us with gloves and headgear. Keep it clean, boys. This is sparring, not a street fight. We touched gloves and began circling each other. Vinny came out aggressive, throwing wild combinations that looked good but left him exposed. I stayed defensive, letting him tire himself out while I studied his patterns. He was stronger than I'd expected, but sloppy. All offense, no defense. The kind of fighter who relied on intimidation rather than skill. Come on, Dave, he taunted after landing a glancing blow to my shoulder. Fight back, unless you're used to just taking it. The double meaning wasn't lost on anyone in the gym. Conversations stopped. This had moved beyond friendly sparring. I slipped his next combination and countered with a straight right that caught him clean on the jaw. His head snapped back, and for a moment his cocky grin disappeared. Lucky shot, he muttered, but he was more careful now. We danced around each other for another minute before I saw my opening. He dropped his left hand after a jab, leaving his ribs exposed. I stepped in with a short uppercut that lifted him off his feet. He went down hard, gasping for air. The gym went silent except for the sound of his labored breathing. Frankie stepped between us. That's enough. Good work, both of you. Vinny struggled to his feet, his face red with embarrassment and lack of oxygen. Got lucky again. Maybe, I said, pulling off my gloves. Or maybe you're not as tough as you think you are. He started to say something else, but Frankie's look shut him down. Showers are that way, Vinny. After he left, Frankie pulled me aside. What was that about? Just sparring, like you said. That wasn't sparring, Dave. That was personal. You want to tell me what's going on? I looked around the gym. A few guys were still watching us, pretending to work out while they listened. This wasn't the place for confessions? Nothing I can't handle, I said. If you say so. But Dave, next time you want to work out your problems, use the heavy bag. It doesn't have a wife and kids. His words stung because they were true. Whatever was happening between Claire and me, Vinny was still a person. Still someone's ex-husband, someone's father. But right now, it was hard to see him as anything other than the man who was destroying my marriage. I drove home through streets that looked different somehow. Smaller, more confining. Like the whole town was closing in around me. The house was empty when I got there. Claire wouldn't be home for hours, if she came home at all. Alyssa was at some after-school activity. Just me and the evidence of a life that was falling apart. I went to the kitchen and opened the drawer where Claire kept important papers. Insurance documents, warranty information, bank statements. I'd never paid much attention to this stuff before. Claire handled the finances, said she was better with numbers. Now I wondered what else she was better at. The bank statements told an interesting story. Regular withdrawals from our joint account, always in cash, always on days when she claimed to be working late, charges at restaurants I'd never been to, a jewelry store purchase from last month that I'd never seen the results of. My phone buzzed. Another text from my mysterious informant. Check her laptop. Password is Alyssa 2005. I stared at the message. How could someone know Claire's password? And why were they helping me? But I found myself climbing the stairs to our bedroom, where Claire's laptop sat on her dresser. I'd never snooped through her things before. It felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. The password worked. Her email inbox was a revelation. Messages from Vinny going back 3 months, not just planning meetings, but intimate conversations about their future together, about how I was holding her back, and how she deserved someone who really understood her. There were messages to her sister about divorce lawyers, research into property division laws, screenshots of apartment listings in the city, places she could afford on her paralegal salary if she wasn't supporting a useless husband. The most recent email was from yesterday. Can't wait to be done with this charade. Dave's so clueless, he probably thinks we're still happy. I closed the laptop and sat on the bed we'd shared for 17 years. The room spun around me as the full scope of her deception became clear. This wasn't just an affair. This was a complete betrayal, a systematic dismantling of our marriage while I remained oblivious. My phone rang. Claire. "Hi, honey," she said in that sweet voice she'd been using lately. "Just wanted to let you know I'll definitely be late tonight. This case is more complicated than we thought." "Which case is that again?" I asked. A pause. "The Henderson case, I told you this morning." "Right, Henderson, I forgot." "Are you okay? You sound strange." "Just tired. Long day." "Well, get some rest. I love you." "Love you too," I lied. After she hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of our bedroom. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Keene working in her garden, probably keeping an eye on the neighborhood drama. The normal sounds of suburban life continuing while my world collapsed. My phone buzzed one more time. "Now you know the truth. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" I stared at that message for a long time. What was I going to do about it? The old Dave would have confronted Claire directly, tried to work things out, suggested counseling. The nice guy approach. But nice guys don't get mysterious text messages with inside information. Nice guys don't have friends who help them uncover their wives' lies. Maybe it was time to stop being such a nice guy. 3 days passed before I saw Claire again for more than 5 minutes. She was perfecting the art of avoidance, leaving early and coming home after I'd gone to bed. When we did cross paths, she maintained her performance of the loving wife, complete with kisses and small talk about her fabricated workload. I played along, but inside, something fundamental had shifted. The anger was still there, burning steady and hot, but it was controlled now, focused. I was thinking 3 moves ahead instead of just reacting. The mysterious texts kept coming, always with useful information, photos of Claire's car at the Riverside Inn, screenshots of her credit card statements showing charges at expensive restaurants, even a recording of her laughing with Vinny outside his dealership, talking about poor Dave and his pathetic workshop projects. Whoever was helping me had access to everything. It should have been unsettling, but instead, it felt like having an ally in a war I hadn't even known I was fighting. Thursday evening, I was in the workshop when Alyssa came downstairs. She rarely ventured into my domain, preferring the digital world upstairs to the analog reality of wood and tools. "Dad, can we talk?" I looked up from the chair I was refinishing. "Sure. What's on your mind?" She perched on my workbench, looking uncomfortable. "It's about Mom." "What about her?" "She's been asking weird questions. About you, about your routine, where you go, who you talk to. It's creepy." "Interesting." Claire was getting paranoid. Maybe she'd noticed changes in my behavior, or maybe Vinny had mentioned our sparring session at the gym. "What kind of questions?" "Like, do you ever use her computer? Do you go through her stuff? Whether you've been acting different lately?" Alyssa picked up a wood chisel, examining its sharp edge. "I told her you're not the snooping type, that you trust people too much." "Used to," I said. She looked at me sharply. "Used to what?" "Used to trust people too much. I'm learning." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Alyssa was a complicated kid, sharp and cynical beyond her years, but she had a core of honesty that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with her mother in the first place. "Dad, are you going to leave her?" The question hung between us like smoke. I'd been so focused on gathering evidence and planning my response that I hadn't really considered the endgame. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? Or just to stop feeling like a fool? "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "Good. I mean, not good that you don't know, but good that you're not just rolling over and taking it. She thinks you're weak, you know. She tells her friends you're too nice to ever stand up for yourself." That stung, but it also clarified things. Claire didn't just think I was boring or incompatible. She thought I was weak, a pushover, someone who could be manipulated and discarded without consequence. "What do you think?" I asked. Alyssa smiled, and for a moment she looked like the little girl who used to help me with projects down here, holding nails and asking endless questions about how things worked. "I think she's about to find out how wrong she is." That night, I made my first real move. Claire was working late again, which according to my mysterious informant meant she was at Vinny's apartment across town. I had the house to myself and several hours to work with. I started with the joint bank accounts. As an authorized user, I had every right to access our money. I transferred half of everything to a new account in my name only. Not theft, just protecting my assets. If Claire wanted to play games with our finances, she could play with her half. Next, I canceled the credit cards that were in my name but that she used regularly. The gas card, the department store cards, the one she used for her work lunches with Vinny. Let her explain to him why her plastic got declined at their next romantic dinner. Then I got creative. I changed the Netflix password. Small thing, but she was addicted to her evening shows. I updated the home Wi-Fi password too, and the security code for the house alarm. Little inconveniences that would add up to major frustration. But the real masterstroke was the car insurance. I called and removed her vehicle from our policy, effective immediately. Not illegal, since the car was in my name, but definitely inconvenient, especially if she got pulled over. My phone buzzed with a text from my helpful friend. "Nice work, but you're just getting started. Check your email." The message contained detailed financial records going back 6 months. Every restaurant charge, every hotel bill, every gift Vinny had bought her with money from our joint account. The total was staggering. Over $5,000 of our savings spent on her affair. But more interesting was what the records revealed about Vinny himself. His car dealership was struggling. He was behind on rent, had maxed out his credit cards, and was facing repossession on that precious Mustang he loved so much. No wonder he was interested in my wife. She represented financial stability as much as romantic excitement. The email included one more item: Vinny's home address and work schedule. I stared at that information for a long time, having it felt like holding a loaded weapon. The question was whether I was ready to use it. Friday morning, Claire discovered the credit card situation when she tried to buy coffee on her way to work. She called me furious. "David, there's something wrong with my card. The machine says it's been canceled." "Which card?" I asked innocently. "All of them. I tried 3 different ones. This is embarrassing." "Huh, that's weird. Maybe identity theft? I should probably check our accounts." "Can you call the bank? I'm already running late." "Sure thing. I'll take care of it." But I didn't call the bank. Instead, I went to the gym. Frankie was working with a new kid, teaching him proper footwork. He looked up when I walked in. "You're here early, and you look like you slept better." "Starting to figure some things out," I said. "Good. You want to talk about it?" I considered telling him everything. Frankie was solid, trustworthy, but some things a man had to handle alone. Not yet, but soon. I worked the heavy bag for an hour, focusing on technique rather than power. Precise combinations, proper form, controlled aggression. It felt like meditation, each punch clearing away another layer of confusion and self-doubt. When I finished, I felt centered for the first time in weeks. My phone showed 6 missed calls from Claire and a dozen increasingly frantic text messages. The bank had confirmed that yes, the credit cards had been canceled, and yes, money had been moved between accounts. All perfectly legal activities by an authorized account holder. I called her back. "David, what the hell is going on?" "The bank says you moved money around and canceled cards without telling me." "I'm protecting our assets," I said calmly, "given some irregularities I've noticed in our spending patterns." Silence. Then, "What irregularities?" "We can discuss it tonight, when you get home from work. Your real work, not whatever you've been doing at the Riverside Inn." The silence stretched longer this time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different. Careful. "I don't know what you think you know, but I know enough. We'll talk tonight." I hung up before she could respond. The rest of the day passed in a strange calm. I worked on projects in the shop, cleaned the house, made dinner, normal domestic activities that felt surreal given the circumstances, like the calm before a storm. Claire came home at exactly 6 o'clock, earlier than she'd been in weeks. She looked nervous, uncertain. The confident woman who'd been lying to my face was gone, replaced by someone who wasn't sure what game we were playing anymore. "Hi," she said tentatively. "Hi, dinner's ready." We ate in silence. I could feel her watching me, trying to gauge my mood, figure out how much I knew. It was a new dynamic for us. Usually I was the one trying to read her signals, anticipate her needs. Now the tables were turned. "David, about the money." "After dinner," I said. "Let's just eat." She picked at her food, barely touching the pasta I'd made. Her phone buzzed several times, but she didn't check it. Probably Vinny wondering why she hadn't shown up for their regular evening activities. When we finished eating, I cleared the table while she sat frozen in her chair. "Okay," I said, sitting back down. "Let's talk." Claire's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass. The confident woman who'd been conducting a months-long affair had been replaced by someone who looked cornered, desperate. "I don't know where to start," she said. How about with the truth? For once? She flinched at that. David, I know this looks bad, but it doesn't look bad, Claire. It is bad. 3 months of hotel receipts, restaurant bills, text messages planning your future with Vinny while you lie to my face every single day. Her face went pale. How did you? Does it matter? The point is, I know. The question now is what we're going to do about it. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. Real ones, I thought, though with Claire it was always hard to tell. I never meant for it to happen like this. But it did happen. For 3 months, it's been happening. While I've been fixing up this house, planning our future, being the devoted husband everyone expects me to be. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. At work, with money, with everything, Vinny makes me feel alive again. Alive. I tasted the word like something bitter. And what do I make you feel? Safe, she said quietly. Comfortable. But David, I'm 40 years old. I don't want to just be safe anymore. There it was. The truth I'd been avoiding for months, maybe years. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her safety net. The reliable backup plan while she explored more exciting options. So what's the end game here, Claire? You keep lying to me while you figure out if Vinny's worth leaving me for? It's not that simple. It seems pretty simple. You're having an affair. You've been planning to leave me. You've been using our money to fund your new relationship. What part of that is complicated? She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Vinny. Yes, I've thought about leaving, but I haven't made any decisions yet. You made a decision the first time you went to that hotel with him? That's not fair. Fair? The word came out louder than I intended. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been telling me you were unhappy instead of sneaking around behind my back. Fair would have been couples therapy instead of couples betrayal. We tried therapy 2 years ago. You said it was a waste of money. Because you told me everything was fine. You said we just needed to communicate better, spend more time together. You didn't mention that what you really needed was a boyfriend on the side. She turned from the window, and I saw something new in her expression. Not guilt or shame, but anger, like I was the one being unreasonable. You know what your problem is, David? You're boring. You're predictable. You come home, you work in your little shop, you watch TV, you go to bed. When's the last time you surprised me? When's the last time you made me feel special? I made you a jewelry box last month. Spent weeks on it. A jewelry box. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You think love is about making things, fixing things, being useful. But sometimes a woman wants to feel desired, not just appreciated. And Vinny makes you feel desired. Yes, he does. He takes me places, buys me things, makes me feel beautiful. When's the last time you told me I was beautiful? I thought about it. She was right. I'd stopped saying those things years ago, stopped noticing the effort she put into her appearance. When had I become the kind of husband who took his wife for granted? But then I remembered the emails I'd read, the conversations about my being useless, and the sympathy evaporated. You're right, I said. I stopped making you feel special. But you know what? You stopped making me feel valued. When's the last time you thanked me for working 60-hour weeks to pay for this house? When's the last time you acknowledged anything I do for this family? That's different. That's just responsibility. And what you're doing with Vinny? What's that? It's living, David. It's feeling something other than comfortable routine. We stared at each other across the kitchen table, 17 years of marriage reduced to this moment of brutal honesty. I could see in her eyes that she'd already made her choice. This conversation was just a formality. So what happens now? I asked. I don't know. I need time to think. Time to think, or time to figure out if Vinny can support you the way I have? She looked startled. What do you mean? I mean, I know about his financial situation. The struggling dealership, the maxed-out credit cards, the car that's about to be repossessed. You've been funding your affair with our money, but what happens when that runs out? You've been investigating him? I've been investigating both of you. Amazing what you can learn when you stop trusting people. My phone chose that moment to buzz with a text. Claire's eyes went to it immediately, suspicious. Who's texting you this late? I glanced at the message. It was from my mysterious ally. She's stalling. Vinny's waiting outside in his car. She's not here to reconcile, just to buy time. I looked out the kitchen window and saw headlights at the end of our driveway. A red Mustang, engine running. Interesting, I said. What? Your boyfriend's outside, waiting for you. Claire's face went white, then red. I don't know what you're talking about. Red Mustang. License plate VNY 2019. He's been sitting there for 10 minutes. She deflated like a punctured balloon. David, I can explain. No need. It's actually perfect. Shows me exactly where your priorities are. I stood up and walked to the front door. Claire followed, pleading. David, don't. Please. Let's just talk about this. We did talk. Now I'm going to talk to Vinny. I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. The Mustang's headlights were pointed at the house, but I could see Vinny's silhouette behind the wheel. He turned off the engine and got out when he saw me. Dave, he called out, trying to sound casual. How's it going? Better now that I know where everyone stands. He walked up the driveway with false confidence, hands in his pockets. Look, man, I think there's been some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You're sleeping with my wife. She's planning to leave me for you. Pretty straightforward situation. Claire appeared beside me on the porch. Vinny, just go. We'll talk later. Actually, I said, let's all talk now. Get it out in the open. Vinny looked between Claire and me, clearly uncomfortable with the direct approach. Dave, I never meant for things to get complicated. Complicated? I laughed. Is that what we're calling adultery now? It's not like that, man. Claire and I, we have a real connection. Something special. Special enough that you're willing to break up a family for it? Your family was already broken, Dave. Claire's been unhappy for years. I'm just giving her what she needs. The casual cruelty of that statement hit me like a physical blow. This man had been watching my marriage, waiting for his opportunity, and now he was standing in my driveway talking about my wife's needs like he was some kind of relationship expert. And what is it she needs, exactly? Passion, excitement, someone who appreciates her. Someone who can't afford to take her anywhere without using my money. Vinny's face darkened. That's temporary. My business is just going through a rough patch. Your business is failing. Your car is about to be repossessed. You're 3 months behind on rent. The only thing you can offer my wife is the fantasy that you're more exciting than me. How do you know all that? I smiled. I know lots of things now. For instance, I know Claire's been paying for your dates with our joint credit cards. Cards that no longer exist. I know you've been telling your friends that you found yourself a sugar mama who's going to help you get back on your feet. I know you've been lying to Claire about your financial situation, just like she's been lying to me about you. Both of them stared at me in shock. This wasn't the confrontation they'd expected. They'd prepared for the nice guy, the pushover, the man who would either roll over or make a scene. They hadn't prepared for someone who'd done his homework. David, Claire said quietly, we need to talk. Alone. I think we've talked enough. Vinny, you should probably leave now. I'm not going anywhere until Claire tells me to. I looked at my wife. Claire, what's it going to be? She stood frozen between us, the weight of her choices finally becoming real. In the distance, I could see Mrs. Keene's curtains twitching. By tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know that the quiet couple in the Victorian house wasn't so quiet anymore. I need time, she said finally. No, I said. You need to choose. Right now. Him or me. Affair or marriage. Lies or truth. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You've made it that simple. Vinny stepped closer. Claire, you don't have to listen to this. You can come with me right now. Where? I asked. To your apartment that you can't afford? In your car that's about to be repossessed? With what money? Shut up, Dave. Make me. The challenge hung in the air between us. I could see Vinny calculating, remembering our sparring session at the gym, weighing his options. He was bigger than me, but he was also a coward who'd been sneaking around with another man's wife for months. This isn't over, he said finally. Yes, I said. It is. He looked at Claire one more time, waiting for her to choose him, to run away with him into their exciting, uncertain future. But she just stood there, paralyzed by the reality of what that choice would actually mean. Fine, he said, but don't come crying to me when you realize what you're giving up. He stalked back to his car, gunned the engine, and peeled out of the driveway with unnecessary drama. The sound echoed through the quiet neighborhood like a gunshot. Claire and I stood on the porch in the sudden silence. Well, I said, that was illuminating. David, I'm sorry. I never wanted it to happen like this. How did you want it to happen? You sneak off in the night, leave me a note, file for divorce, and let me find out from a lawyer? I don't know. I don't know. Here's what I know, I said. You made your choice months ago. Tonight just made it official. I turned and walked back into the house, leaving her standing alone on the porch under the pale glow of the streetlight. The house felt different after that night. Not just quiet, but hollow, like the life had been drained out of it along with the lies and pretense. Claire moved through the rooms like a ghost, avoiding eye contact, speaking only when necessary. She'd chosen to stay, but we both knew it wasn't really a choice. Vinny had shown his true colors when confronted with reality, and Claire had seen exactly what kind of man she'd been planning to leave me for. A coward who ran when things got difficult. But staying wasn't the same as recommitting. She slept in the guest room now, claiming she needed space to think. She came and went without explanation, though she no longer pretended to be working late. The affair was over, but so was our marriage. We were just going through the motions until one of us found the courage to make it official. My mysterious text friend had gone quiet since the confrontation. Maybe their job was done? They'd helped me uncover the truth, and what I did with it was up to me. I threw myself into work projects, both paying jobs and personal ones. The repetitive nature of sanding, measuring, cutting, and assembling was therapeutic. Each completed project felt like proof that I could still build something, even as my marriage fell apart. 2 weeks after the confrontation, Alyssa cornered me in the workshop. "So what's the plan, Dad?" I looked up from the cabinet I was refinishing. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you caught Mom cheating, scared off her boyfriend, and now you're both walking around like zombies. What's the end game?" "I don't know if there is one. That's not good enough." She hopped up on my workbench, a habit that usually annoyed me but somehow felt comforting now. "You can't just exist in limbo forever. What do you think I should do?" "I think you should stop being so nice about it." I confronted them. I ended the affair. What more do you want? I want you to win. The simplicity of that statement hit me harder than any of Claire's justifications or Vinny's provocations. My daughter wanted me to win. Not just survive, not just endure, but actually come out ahead. What would winning look like? "I don't know, but this isn't it. This is just sad." She was right. I'd stopped the affair, but I hadn't addressed the underlying problem. Claire still saw me as boring, predictable, weak. The neighborhood still saw me as the guy whose wife had cheated on him. I'd won the battle, but lost the war. That night, I got a text from a number I recognized. "Ready for phase 2? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "What did you have in mind?" "Meet me tomorrow, Riverside Diner, 2 p.m. Come alone." The Riverside Diner was the kind of place where truckers and shift workers grabbed coffee and pie. Not somewhere I'd expect to meet a mysterious ally, but maybe that was the point. I arrived early and took a corner booth where I could watch the door. At exactly 2 p.m., a woman walked in and looked around. She was about Claire's age, professionally dressed, with short auburn hair and intelligent eyes. She spotted me and walked over. "David?" "That's me." She slid into the booth across from me. "I'm Jessica. We need to talk." The name hit me like a slap. Jessica. Jess. Claire's best friend from work. The woman who'd been listening to Claire's complaints about our marriage for years, offering advice and support. "You're the one who's been texting me." "Yes." "Why?" She signaled the waitress for coffee before answering. "Because Claire's my friend and I care about her. But what she's doing to you isn't right." "So you decided to help me catch her?" "I decided to help her see what she was really doing. Sometimes people need to hit bottom before they can climb back up." The waitress brought coffee and left us alone. Jessica added sugar and stirred thoughtfully. "Claire's been unhappy for a while," she said. She felt taken for granted, unappreciated. But instead of working on her marriage, she chose the easy path, the exciting path. "And you encouraged her?" "At first, I listened. That's what friends do. But when she started talking about leaving you for Vinny, I realized she was making a huge mistake." "So you sabotaged her affair to save her marriage?" "I gave her husband the tools to save his marriage. What you did with those tools was up to you." I sipped my coffee, trying to process this. "How do you know so much about Vinny's finances? About their meetings?" "I work in HR, David. I know how to find information. And Vinny's not as discreet as he thinks he is." "What's phase 2? She smiled, and I saw a hint of steel behind her friendly exterior. "Phase 2 is making sure this never happens again. Making sure Claire understands what she almost lost, and making sure you understand what you're worth." "I'm listening." "The problem isn't just that Claire had an affair. The problem is that she doesn't respect you. She sees you as safe, reliable, boring, a good provider, but not an exciting partner." "So, how do I change that?" "You don't change who you are, David. You change how you present who you are. You stop being apologetic about your strengths. You stop letting people take you for granted." She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "Vinny's not done with Claire. He's been texting her, calling her, trying to convince her that you forced her to choose and that she chose wrong. I opened the folder. Screenshots of text messages, call logs, even photos of Vinny parked outside Claire's office building. He's stalking her. He's pursuing her, and she's responding. Not enthusiastically, but she's not shutting him down either. My stomach clenched. So the affair isn't really over. The physical affair is over, but the emotional connection is still there. Claire's still wondering, what if? What do you suggest? I suggest we give her a definitive answer to that question. Jessica's plan was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to win Claire back through grand gestures or emotional appeals, we would let her see exactly what life with Vinny would really be like. She's been living in a fantasy, Jessica explained. Romantic dinners, exciting encounters, the thrill of something forbidden. But real life isn't a fantasy. Real life is bills and responsibilities and day-to-day problems. So we bring her back to reality. We let reality bring itself to her. The plan required patience and precision. Jessica would continue monitoring Vinny's attempts to contact Claire, while I would focus on becoming the kind of man who couldn't be taken for granted. Stop being so available, she advised. Stop trying to fix everything. Let Claire see what it's like when you're not there to handle all the details of daily life. You want me to neglect my responsibilities? I want you to redistribute them. Let Claire handle her own problems for a while. Let her remember why she married a competent, reliable man in the first place. It started small. When Claire's car made a strange noise, I didn't immediately offer to look at it. When she mentioned needing help with a work project, I didn't volunteer my time. When she seemed stressed about household finances, I didn't jump in with solutions. Instead, I focused on my own projects and interests. I took up photography, something I'd always wanted to try. I started going to the gym more regularly, not to impress Claire, but because I enjoyed the physical challenge. I began accepting social invitations I'd previously declined to spend time at home. The change was subtle, but noticeable. Claire started asking where I was going, what I was doing, who I was talking to. For the first time in years, she seemed curious about my life outside our marriage. Meanwhile, Jessica kept me informed about Vinny's increasingly desperate attempts to reconnect with Claire. He'd started showing up at her office, sending flowers, even calling the house when he thought I wouldn't be home. He's getting more aggressive, Jessica warned. Claire's feeling pressured, and that's making her remember why she found you appealing in the first place. What do you mean? You never pressured her, David. You never made her feel trapped or desperate. That's not boring. That's mature, secure. It's what she needs, even if she doesn't realize it yet. The turning point came 3 weeks later. I was in the workshop when I heard Claire's car pull into the driveway, engine making that strange noise she'd mentioned weeks ago. But instead of coming to ask for my help, she sat in the car for several minutes, talking on her phone. I could hear her voice through the thin garage walls, though I couldn't make out the words. She sounded upset, frustrated. When she finally came inside, her face was flushed with anger. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Vinny's car broke down, and he wants me to come pick him up. Says it's an emergency." "Are you going to?" She looked at me with something like surprise. The old David would have offered to go himself, or at least expressed concern about her safety. The new David just waited for her answer. "I don't know. He says he's stranded, but..." She trailed off, uncertainty clear in her voice. But it feels like he's always having some kind of crisis that only I can solve. His car, his rent, his business problems. It's exhausting." "Sounds like it." She stared at me for a moment, as if seeing me clearly for the first time in months. "David, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why didn't you fight harder? When you found out about Vinny, why didn't you try to win me back?" The question caught me off guard. Would it have worked? I don't know. Maybe. But you just let me go. "I didn't let you go, Claire. I let you choose. There's a difference. And if I choose wrong, then you live with the consequences. We both do." Her phone rang again. Vinny, no doubt, wondering why she hadn't rushed to his rescue. She looked at the screen but didn't answer. "He's not going to stop calling," she said. "Probably not. The question is whether you're going to keep answering." She turned off the phone and put it in her purse. "I think I need to have a conversation with Vinny, a final one." "Want me to come with you?" "No, this is something I need to handle myself." She left an hour later, and I went back to my workshop. But I couldn't concentrate on the project in front of me. This felt like another turning point, another moment when our future would be decided. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "She's at his apartment. This is it." I put down my tools and went upstairs to wait. 2 hours later, Claire came home. She looked drained but relieved, like someone who'd finally finished a difficult task. "How did it go?" I asked. "It's over. Really over this time." "What changed?" "He wanted me to lend him money. Said if I really loved him, I'd help him save his business." She shook her head. "I realize that's all I've ever been to him. A solution to his problems. Just like what?" "Just like I've been treating you, like you exist to solve my problems, make my life easier, give me what I need without me having to give anything back." We stood in our kitchen, the same place where we'd had our confrontation weeks ago, but everything felt different now. "So what happens now?" I asked. "Now we figure out if we can build something real together. Not the fantasy I was chasing with Vinny, and not the comfortable routine we'd fallen into before. Something honest. And if we can't, then at least we'll know we tried." It wasn't a declaration of love or a promise of happily ever after, but it was honest, which was more than we'd had in a long time. My phone buzzed with one final text from Jessica. "Well done. The rest is up to you." I deleted the message and put the phone away. She was right. The rest was up to us. Outside, the sun was setting over our quiet neighborhood. Mrs. Keene was watering her garden, probably disappointed that the drama seemed to be winding down. Life was returning to normal, or at least to a new version of normal. Claire and I had a long way to go. Trust would have to be rebuilt, respect re-earned, love rediscovered. There were no guarantees that we'd make it. But for the first time in months, I felt like we had a fighting chance. And sometimes that's all you need.